everybody, this is Rabbitearsblog and welcome to my question and answer me sessions video. This is the third video I'm doing for all the question and answer me sessions. And so I got some really good questions that everybody has come to ask me about, and I will start answering the questions right now. So the first question I'm going to ask comes from Boobop 1987, and she asks, which movie that you don't like that is very overrated? Well, I would say the movie that I think that is pretty overrated that I don't really care for is Twilight. Is all the Twilight movies, and that's probably because I have never really read the books themselves. But I don't know. I never really got into Twilight itself because even though I love watching vampire movies, I think the thing about Twilight is that they turn it into like a romantic angst thing, and that's something I don't ever really take too well, and so I would say the Twilight movie franchise is like something that I think is just so overrated that I don't really care for because I don't like the romance angst that's being done with the vampire movies at all. The next question comes from Sleepy Reader 666, and he asks, how do you feel about the different comic book companies, Marvel vs. DC or Image or Dark Horse or others? Well, let me start with Image and Vertigo comics so far. I really like what Image Comics is doing with their own comics. Like I've been reading Saga and Chew lately. Like I really love Saga by Brian K. Vaughan. I love what Brian K. Vaughan is doing with the Saga series. It's such an interesting sci-fi fantasy series, and I really can't wait to see what else they can do with the storylines in there, and yeah, I'm really definitely looking forward to volume 2 of Saga. And then for Vertigo Comics, I've been enjoying excuse me, American Vampire by Scott Snyder, and it's been a really fantastic series so far. I've been like picking up almost all the volumes for it, and so I can't wait for the 5th volume to come out. And so Image and Vertigo comics, I'm like enjoying those way more than I do with Marvel and DC, which I will get around to right now. So for Marvel and DC, for DC, I'm not sure how I feel about the New 52 reboot. I just think to myself that maybe it's a little too soon for DC to start rebooting their franchise because there were some storylines that weren't really wrapped up in the last universe. So I thought to myself, maybe DC excuse me, should have sort of waited like a few years before they do the New 52 because there was a lot of storylines that they didn't really resolve in the last universe. And now for Marvel, I don't mind about the idea about Marvel now, but I wish it didn't start after Avengers versus X-Men, the big event, because I feel like with that type of event, there's a lot that the Marvel would have to cover with the X-Men, and the relationship with the Avengers, and I hope that the current Marvel Now books actually covers all that. And some of them are kind of covering that, but others are like deviating away from that. I mean, that's nothing wrong with that because I'm not sure how I feel about Avengers vs X-Men, but it doesn't seem like an event I would really like to read about. It just doesn't seem like that type of event that should affect the entire universe. I think this was like one of those events that should happen, should affect the universe in small spades or something like that. But that's how I feel about Marvel Comics right now, at least regarding Marvel Now. I think that it's a good idea, but they should have started after an event that actually made a lot more sense than not Avengers vs. X-Men. Next question comes from Hayden Claire Heroes, also known as Comic Uno, and she asks, what is your top current favorite comic book titles? My top favorite current comic book title so far is Saga by Brian K. Vaughan. I mentioned how creative that comic book series really is. I like the sci-fi fantasy, the focus on the romance angle between Elena and Marco. It's just something that I've been enjoying for the past few weeks. I've been reading the Saga series, and then another current comic book series I've really been enjoying is American Vampire by Scott Snyder. I like how the idea about the vampire originating in America, is brought into the storylines, and it's a pretty good series. I think I really enjoy Saga and American Vampire very much. It's just they're both really great series that are very creative with the ideas. The next question comes from Daniel Locks 42992, and he asks, since you're a big fan of comic books, have you ever considered a career in comic illustrating or writing? Well, I want to consider I didn't really consider comic book writing or illustrating as my career. I've been considering like a lot of businesses for a big career. Like I was thinking about doing a clothing line as my big career. But as for comic books and in general, like writing for them, I wouldn't mind doing it like as a sideline work, because I have been writing some fan fictions based on some of my favorite comic books characters. Like I wrote some fan fictions on X-Men, and some of those fan fictions I would like to be put into comic books. And I was even thinking about doing this little series, like maybe call Alien Mayhem or something like that, where this young woman fights off all these aliens. But the idea is still excuse me. The idea is still kind of like out there, but I wanted to do something like where the young woman fights off aliens as a comic books thing that I want to do. So I've been thinking about maybe doing comic book writing as a sideline thing, maybe not as a career thing, but something that I like to do in my extra time since I'm really interested in the comic book universe. So that's something that I'm definitely thinking about. Next question that comes from Daniel Locks 42992 is: are there any comics that you think deserve a film adaptation? If so, which comics? Most of my favorite comic books have been adapted into film, but I would definitely like a more faithful version of the X-Men comics. Like I like to have an X-Men movie that actually focuses on the original five, or focuses on the second generation of X-Men and start from there. I do like the idea that they're taking ideas from the comics and making something completely new, but I will definitely like an X-Men movie that's more faithful to the comic books, like actually get some storylines like Mutant Massacre or Age of Apocalypse through the movies. That might take a while, but it's definitely something I'm really looking forward to. So definitely the X-Men comic books I would like to see more of come soon. Um, the next question comes from Stubbs Wolf, and they ask, what comic book movies are you looking forward to? I'm definitely looking forward to Avengers 2. I've seen the Avengers movie and I've really enjoyed it. So I can't wait to see what more characters they're going to add into the Avengers 2. Like, are they going to add Wasp, Ant-Man, Black Panther, Miss Marvel? I'd like to see all those characters come in Avengers 2. So I really can't wait for Avengers 2. That's probably the superhero movie I'm looking forward to the most, or comic book movie I'm looking forward to the most, because I've really enjoyed the Avengers, and I can't wait to see what Joss Whedon does with the Avengers 2, because he's a really great writer and director himself. He did Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He wrote for Astonishing X-Men, which is like my most favorite series from the X-Men comics so far. So I really can't wait to see what he's going to do with Avengers 2. The next question that comes from Stubbs Wolf is: do you have any favorite anime shows or anime movies? I'm definitely a huge fan of anime, and I have a lot of favorite anime shows. One of my most favorite anime shows is Dragon Ball Z. I love all the characters. I love the action sequences. It's just a fantastic show all around. Another favorite anime series I like is Ranma One Half. It's very funny. I also love the characters. The idea about Rama, when being drenched with cold water, turns into a girl. It's like a really creative idea that I really like. And then another anime show I really like is Inuyasha. That's also from the same creators as Ranma One Half. And I like the idea that it's focusing on demons, and Inuyasha just finding all these random demons to save the world. Some anime movies that I really like is anything done by Hayao Miyazaki. I love watching Spirited Away and Princess Mononoke and My Name is Totoro, some of my favorites from him. He's pretty good at writing a lot of anime films, and I just watch anything that's written by him, basically. The next question from Stubbs Wolf is: have you ever seen Small Soldiers? If so, what are your thoughts on the movie? I saw Small Soldiers a bit when I was little. I don't remember too much about the movie, other than it was something about toy soldiers coming to life, possibly taking over the house or something like that. It's been so long ago since I've seen that movie, but I think I remember being a bit interested in it. Like I like the idea about toy soldiers invading a house and stuff like that. But it's definitely something it's definitely something I want to rewatch over and over again. I like to rewatch nowadays if I ever get the chance, or if I ever pick out the movie in the stores and stuff, something like that. I would definitely like to see Small Soldiers again, see how that movie has aged over the years. And the last question from Stubbs Wolf is: what are the worst comic book movies you have ever seen? I wasn't a huge fan of X-Men Last Stand and Spider-Man 3 for equal reasons. Like, I didn't care much for I mean, I wouldn't say I outright hate either of them, but they have a lot of material in it that they just doesn't sit well with me. Like with X-Men Last Stand, I didn't like the fact that almost all the characters get killed for no reason. Like especially Professor Xavier and Cyclops, that was something that really turned me off from the movie. I didn't like how they had all these extra characters and they didn't really do anything with most of them. And with Spider-Man 3, I didn't like the way they used Venom. It was just like they just threw Venom in there because, he's a fan favorite, but I didn't like the way that, he was being used in this movie. I also didn't like the way in Spider-Man 3 they also introduced all these new characters and they didn't do a lot with them. So I think with X-Men Last Stand and Spider-Man 3, they just throw in so many characters that they didn't really give them like a well-defined plot that can really like separate them. So I would definitely say Spider-Man 3 or X-Men Last Stand, or at least my least favorite movies. At least they're not my most hated movies, but they're not my favorites either. And from Totally Lisa Cartoons, she asked, "What cartoons do you think have been rebooted or remade for the best or worse?" I really like the rebooted version of Thundercats. I liked how they're going back in time, telling us about how Lionel lived during Thundera during his child years. I don't think in the original '80s series they went much into detail about Lionel's life on Thundera. So I really liked how the rebooted version kind of did that. They went into more detail with it. I mean, the '80s series kind of went into it a little bit, but not much. But the 2011 version, they kind of went more into detail about Lionel's life as a child and how his life was like on Thundera. So I really like that angle on it. And I can't really say if there was any rebooted or remade versions of my favorite TV shows that I didn't enjoy. Yeah, I say all of them had at least done the best they could with remaking the franchise. I guess the only one I would say that I didn't care too much for was Transformers, but that was because they made so many remakes of them. There was an anime version, there was another American version of Transformers from the '80s series, and I felt to myself, why have all these remakes? One remake should be enough for a Transformers franchise. So I guess Transformers um is the one that I didn't really understand a lot because why make all those remakes when you could just make one remake just for that generation. Well, that's my question answering session. I hope you enjoyed this video and all these questions were fantastic. I hope you ask me any more questions about myself, and I always post a new video every Sunday and Monday, and if you don't see a new video on Sunday, Monday, you might see it on Tuesday and Wednesday. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I am definitely thinking about doing another question and answering session. But I'll let you all know when I'm going to do a next video of the question and answering session. And this is Rabbitearsblog, and I'll see you later.